Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Radio Free Wall Street, 5 o'clock New York time. Every day of the week, live streaming. Oh, my God, Donald Trump has been a busy boy. He has a knack. He's pissed off everybody. Now, see, I thought part of the art of the deal was to get people to want to do deals with you. And I thought part of the art of the deal was to be the leader, the consensus maker, the guy who is the king of the road, the man, the guy. And Donald Trump just creates animosity everywhere he goes. Foreign leaders hate his guts. Now, you may have a philosophy that says that's good, but I can tell you that that's not how that works. And Donald Trump is just sliding down the slippery slope of alienating everybody. And you got to question his motivations. He decided that he wanted to ask the G7 to include Russia. Now, okay, let's see if I understand this. I've got the G7. They're really pissed off at us. They're the 7 industrial leader countries in the world. America's been regarded as the leader of the G7. And Donald Trump's pissed off at the trade deals with them. Okay, I can understand that. So when he goes there, he shows up an hour late, gets in a twitting controversy with the world leaders, and to make sure he really pisses them off, he then talks about how he wants to get Putin back in the G7. Now, Donald, what exactly were you doing? Were you negotiating for America or for your buddy, your bro, Putin? And the reality is that Donald Trump's pretty much made a mess of trade. The negotiators are aghast at what's going on. He's talking about withdrawing from NAFTA. He withdrew from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And all of a sudden, people are saying, we got a big problem here with this guy. Do we need him? The European market, by the way, European Union is larger than the U.S. It's the largest market in the world. If you take China and India and you remove U.S. from the equation, you could see your way clear. Like, well, maybe we don't have to worry about America so much anymore. Okay? People are now looking at what does the world look like if we aren't a free trading partner with America? And American businesses have still not understood that. They were reviewing some of the pork producers. Now, if you're a pork producer in Iowa, you would think you'd like to sell some pork. But no, it doesn't work that way. There's a guy, well, I don't know if there's a problem. You think there's a problem? Well, I got some pork orders this week. I go, well, that's a long-term strategic thinker there. Oink, 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 oink. Where do you find these guys? So the bottom line is, and it is a bottom line, that Trump has got us into a trade war that is not going very well. We're not getting concessions from trade partners. We're not reaching a Trump moment where, oh, Donald, you are such a negotiator. My mind has been bewildered. What can I do for you? It's more like, who the hell are you? You're pissing everybody off. People are tired of it. And around we go, and where she stops, nobody knows. So let me tell you something. Donald Trump's problem is that he's on the world stage. And he's negotiating for different things than we have. He wants different things than what's good for American business. Donald Trump, and I figured out, Donald Trump isn't negotiating for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is negotiating not for America. Donald Trump is negotiating for the next elections. Donald Trump is negotiating for the incumbents. Donald Trump needs to win the House and the Senate and needs to keep it. So in essence, his priority is not Donald. It's not America. It's not coal grade again. It's to bring in the voters that will keep the Republican majority and stop the Democrats from becoming the impeachment majority. Now, the other problem is, remember, he's got Putin there, so now you wonder, well, why would you bring Putin into the middle of the negotiation? Well, Putin's got his agenda, and he probably called and said, Donald, I understand you're going to G7 next week. Now, remember, like we talked about, I want to lift sanctions, and I want to be back in the G7. And Donald Trump said, yeah, boss, no problem. Can you imagine that? Donald Trump's Putin's bitch? Think about it. Really, really, really. Why else would he do that? He's got himself in a major thing. Now he's going to, you see, let's analyze this, okay? We're good at this. This is pretty sharp. So we've now got the golden opportunity to meet the 7 leaders of the industrialized world. Obviously, we all know that there's a crisis. Would this not be an opportunity to bring them boxes of bonbons and candy and sit down and go, I've taken a hard line with you guys, but we need some relief on some of these tariffs, and you need to open up your markets to us, and these balance of trade deficits are really huge, and how can we work this out? Because, I really want to work it out. Instead of saying, you guys can all go suck hind tit. I want Putin at this meeting next time, and I'm going off the King Yum Nunchucks to save the world. Ditto. Not exactly save the world, but what, Donald? Oh, to get the Nobel Peace Prize. So now that you put this in perspective, you realize that we got ourselves a real freaking problem here. This guy absolutely, positively is moving ahead in ways that are to the detriment of America, to the detriment of America business, to the detriment of keeping America great again. In other words, I thought the whole idea was that, you want to be the leader. You want to be the country that leads the world. You want to be the one that's the master of the trade negotiations. And you want to negotiate a better deal. But if that's not your agenda and you want to piss everyone off so you can impress a coal miner and a factory worker in Detroit and a steel mill guy over in Bethlehem, well, then you can see there's a much different perspective of what's going on here. Now, this has gone very, very badly. I want to say that to you. There was some hope in some quarters that Trump would come there and we meet the Mr. Nice Guy, good cop, bad cop. I am told that Donald Trump at the last minute wanted to back out and not even show up, and his staff pressed him pretty hard to go there. It would have been a big flub up. If you can imagine if Donald Trump, didn't return the G7 meetings. Now, he's leaving early. He is not negotiating on behalf of America. So I've been puzzled for quite some time. This is Negotiator in Chief. I read the book twice. Read it just recently, The Art of the Deal. And I thought, well, this is Donald Trump. He's going to go there and sit down at the table, and he's going to negotiate, and we're going to get a statement about how America is going to lead the G7 into a new world of fair trade, free trade, more trade. And he's going to hold up, listen, I'm going to open up the markets a lot more to you guys. And hold off China, by the way. Remember, the footsteps you were hearing as an American businessman are the Chinese, okay? Really, really, they are targeting U.S. businesses. And China is spending 7 times the amount on high-tech development that our high-tech companies are. Of course, it's the government. And they are targeting the new world order of who's going to lead the high-tech forward. And that should be something people are very much worried about. Donald doesn't understand. China doesn't want to be in the steel business. But Donald Trump does. So China's saying, in fact, I was thinking we could contact them and say, you guys are right. Why don't we give you our digital data, digital information? You guys can compete on the Internet. You guys can go in and take over virtual reality, algorithms, and send over to us your steel mills. And then America will be great in steel. China will get out of the steel business, out of aluminum, which has been a colossal money loser since they're state-run enterprises. And the basic situation is they have too much steel capacity because it was a jobs program. And they'll get high-tech, and then we'll go and we'll start our coal mines, and we'll stop anything with solar. We'll go directly into nuclear reactors and the coal mines. And then America will look like China with the smog, and China will become the Silicon Valley. Is that the negotiation position Donald Trump's taking? Well, if you ask the question, the answer is yes, and I'll tell you why. See, Silicon Valley doesn't like Donald Trump. A lot of lefty liberals, for sure. And coal miners, well, they love Donald Trump. And he's going to the Midwest, which is a very strong base for Donald. So if we understand this, then the question is, do we really want to throw America under the bus? And the answer is, I'm going to tell you, absolutely, positively, Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about trade. He doesn't give a shit about NAFTA. He don't care about Mexico or Canada. He doesn't care about the deficit with Europe. All he cares about is getting his Republican buddies in office so he is not thrown out on his ass. Now, if you understand that, then you understand the grave danger room, because this kabuki dance continues coming up to the fall elections. And now, all of a sudden, we don't have a negotiator. Donald Trump is actually shutting down negotiations. He is actually having language. I was talking to a couple of the trade guys, and they told me that, we just don't know where we stand in negotiations. I mean, what is our position? And it changes, and we can't get consistent feel for what the negotiation position is. And if we do, all of a sudden we wake up one day and it's off the table, and we go back to the table and say, no, forget that deal. You remember what was happening with the DACA kids, where they had a deal and didn't have a deal with Donald? And the problem you've got with Donald Trump is he's not very consistent, and he's subject to go off the deep end with these bombastic blow-offs, and it's very damaging. People are not understanding where we stand. Now, having negotiated with Europeans, it's a different style of negotiation. Things are more slow-moving with them, and they have a different agenda, that's for sure. But understand that it held us in good stead. They are perfectly willing to let America take the lead. They really understand the might of the U.S. marketplace and are mighty innovators more than anything else. They have a great deal of respect for our tech. And Europeans lag very, very far behind in tech as far as what percentage of their economy is. America is the tech leader. The problem is that we're losing that lead. Let's be perfectly honest here. Trade policy, which is the domain of governments, has a net effect all the way down the food chain in the economy. And what is supported by government grows and prospers, especially on the international front. And what government pisses on, well, it gets pissed on. Now, the problem you've got is that Mexico, Canada, the Europeans very much understand. Listen to me. They know Donald Trump's trouble. Okay, let's talk straight. You may think it's a deep state conspiracy, and you may think it's FBI rogue 20 super Democratic, super PAC donors that are just trying to get even for the election, okay? The Canadians, the Mexicans, the Europeans are too sophisticated for that bullshit. Okay, they understand corruption. They have their own problems. They understand a politician that is subject to an investigation, and they correctly assess that Donald Trump's got a big problem. Which means this, listen to me. They are not in any hurry to cut a deal, okay? They realize that Donald Trump's influence may be very limited, and they're watching the midterm elections as much as Donald Trump is. And we're now in a situation where, look, guys, we're well into June, July, August, September, October, beginning of November's election. So we're talking a very short time frame. It would make sense for people to kind of stall things and stand aside and wait to see who they're dealing with, okay? You can make a bad deal with Donald Trump and find out that, he is no longer the power broker. Or you can wait and play a careful hand and just see how well old Donald does. Now, you got on the side of this thing, Europe's got a problem. They're having a real problem with the European banking system. They're having a real problem with the immigration issues. I mean, immigration is a worldwide problem. Why? Well, populations are on the move. America and Europe has one big problem. We don't have enough babies. And our populations are shrinking. On the other hand, Africa has a huge, huge overpopulation problem. These people are poor, they're desperate, and they're on the move. Do not discount these mass migrations that happen in history. And do not count the crisis that is forming in Europe with immigration reform. Okay, it's a great big deal. Now, of course, we have immigration that's a big hot-button issue in America. But America controls America's borders. Okay, whatever Donald Trump wants to tell you, it's still a border under our control. Italy doesn't control Italian borders. Greece doesn't control Greece borders. France doesn't control who migrates to France, okay? And that is one of the main reasons why the English are getting out. They want to gain back their sovereignty over the control of immigration and their populations. Now, there's another side of this, and that is trade. Okay, unfortunately, because of Donald Trump taking, should we say, more trade powers than he's entitled to by decree, his trade demands are very dicey, to say the least. Let me explain. He's basically doing the 202 deal, which says that he can go ahead and intervene in unfair trade practices that are a threat to national security. And he's taken that to an extreme that is ridiculous. And, basically Canada's a threat to our national security. So is South Korea. So is Japan. So is Mexico. And it's getting very, very dicey. Now, the problem is that this is headed for the World Trade Organization. They have a dispute mechanism in there. And although in the past that's been a very slow process, they got a fire lit under their ass right now. So understand that we are flirting with a situation that is going to be very much part of, obviously, the elections. But it also ends up in my bailiwick, and that is it's also part of what the market's going to look at. Now, you're seeing the action of the stock market. They're trying to get a rally going, and they're kind of stalling. The dollar is up, down, where we're going, gold and silver confused. And the one thing you see in the marketplace is that it's becoming very indecisive. Now, let me tell you, if you want to kill a rally, you want to kill business, just put uncertainty into the equation. What is the status with the Italian bonds? What is the status with trade sanctions with Venezuela? What is the situation with the Kim Jong-Nunchuk's negotiation? What about this Iranian deal? I mean, it's a big factor in the marketplace. Look how many fronts Donald Trump has opened. And all of a sudden you realize, holy shit, this is a very busy guy. And he has opened a lot of very complex situations where, let's be honest with each other, he doesn't understand the complexity. He's not taking to his advisors well, and the people who are his advisors, or should we say a little bit on the extreme side. So we've got a situation where, look, we're dealing with NAFTA. He wants to pull out of. We've got very contentious negotiations with Europe. You've got now no more bilateral negotiations in NAFTA. He wants to go unilaterally against Mexico and the United States and Canada and the United States. He's got Europe that's in an uproar. German car manufacturers are very concerned about duties. Germans don't buy American cars. Okay, when you come from the land of the BMW and the Mercedes, you can understand that the Chevy is just not quite the car. Look, I was involved for a time with an importer who was trying to establish U.S. brands, and they decided that they were going to do 3 brands. They were going to do Cadillac, Hummer, and the Corvette. Okay, and the problem was they had a very hard time establishing the brands because of Europeans' interior. If you look at a European car, a lot of money's put into the interior. That the U.S. cars have a lot of plastic, and you know what I'm talking about, and a lot of foam. Well, that didn't work. So the problem is that we do not build a world car that is competitive in the European market for a lot of different reasons, size and all that. I mean, European roads are very small. Europeans prefer smaller cars. It's a whole complex issue. American cars do not have a good reputation there. So it's not just a duty problem. In other words, heads up, dollar for dollar, car for car, no duties either side. American cars cannot compete in Europe. Okay? And wow, damn, we build the best car in the world because it is made in America. It's just not true. There's problems with the quality of the build. There's problems with the interior. There's problems with the size, engines. Europeans pay a huge premium for their fuel. So the trade negotiations are very, very complicated. And automobiles is just a lousy business. Okay, it's just not there. Very thin margins. Legacy automakers. People tend to be very nationalistic about cars. So all of a sudden, this simplistic comparison of balance of trade deficits are not valid. Okay, there's a value proposition in this. And the biggest problem is that that's not being taken into account. So we're moving into a situation where we have a president that does not have a grasp of the issues. We have Europeans that now it's getting personal. And you know who he got in the background? I'll tell you what's very interesting. You know who's agitating in the background? The Chinese saying, we can be a big market for you. And we can replace a lot of goods America wants to put tariffs on both sides, in and out. And the people who are moving in this thing in a very clever way is China says, if America doesn't want to be the world trading partner, China does. And if America doesn't want to be the powerhouse leading the world forward, well, China will. And all of a sudden, Donald Trump's creating this enormous vacuum. Now, we will end up getting the fuel business, okay? Let me explain how this is going to go. We are absolutely positively going to have the Chinese that's going to buy a bunch of fuel in the United States, okay? Let me tell you one of the, should I say, deals that's out there from good authority, from traders, okay? This is serious stuff. China's saying, well, one of the things we could do is buy a vast amount of U.S. oil, everything we can get, and resell in the open market. Okay, now what that does is that gives us a huge boost to solving the balance of trade deficit, but not really, okay? And then what happens is a very clean way because, we're basically doing an in and out two-way deal. We're buying what we've already sold. We've got our spread differential there. And the benefit is that it doesn't cost us any money, may even make us money. And we end up showing this huge purchase from the United States, which is really not. I mean, let's tell you, we're after everyone else's market. Okay, now the problem again is with the simplistic analysis of what did you buy from me, what did I buy from you, you miss it. It's what was the value of what you bought? How much was it profitable? What was the added value? So if China buys a bunch of U.S. oil and dumps it back into the market, well, that's to the detriment of U.S. suppliers who are losing the customers that China's have. And then the Chinese have an incentive to cut price, which they're lousy traders about. I'll tell you, I've been involved in some Chinese trading deals, and these state traders have just like a bizarre way, and that's a good way to explain, a bizarre way of trading. And the net effects is horrible, okay? Again, these are state-run trading enterprises. I had a friend of mine who ran lumber mills out of Michigan, okay? And America has some of the great stands of hardwood lumber, especially oak. The Chinese government decided that they wanted to get into the furniture business, okay? And hardwood furniture. I'm not talking the IKEA pasteboard shit. And what they did is they went to this friend of mine and signed huge contracts to buy furniture-grade wood, okay? And, the buyers were very sharp. They paid a price. They paid a premium price. And my friend did very, very well for himself selling China huge amounts of hardwood. Now, the Chinese did something very interesting. Let me tell you what they did. They bought this hardwood at a market price and a bit of a premium, and the Chinese government owned it. And then companies that wanted to get into the furniture making business were buying the hardwood at a steep discount. Kind of clever, right? So the Chinese furniture market makers came in the high-end furniture business with a subsidized wood, and remember, the cheap labor. And that is a technique they use to establish themselves in various markets. Got it? A good example right now is what's taking place with telecom equipment. Don't let anyone shit you. The Chinese are moving in, and they want to be in this fifth generation because they realize, intelligently so, how big it's going to be. And the Chinese government is subsidizing their investment, helping them, aiding and abetting them stealing U.S. technology, and moving forward. Now look what a beautiful job they did. Chinese biggest cell telephone company, both on the commercial front, meaning the tower and the RF transceivers and that data base, and to the handheld units, got caught doing a lot of nasty deals, okay? We're talking a huge company. Well, they got to Donald Trump, and all of a sudden, Dandy Don gives them the farm. They walk away with a lousy $1 billion fine, which is nothing. $400 million in escrow. That joke's going to go. And monitors, mutually decided upon. What's the real deal? Donald Trump caved. So what I'm saying to you is that what is going on here is Donald Trump is taking a hard, aggressive line among our allies and among our enemies and the true people who are threats to our economy and our markets. He's giving away the store. Why? Again, you're looking at the Putin influence. You're looking at Donald Trump inside double dealing. And you're looking at the one factor we keep getting up to. And this is what you really understand. It's not about the trade. It's not about the balance of trade deficits. It's about the perception among his blue-collar base that wants the factories back alive again, among the unions that want these coal jobs back, that want these steel jobs back. So what's happening is, strategically, remember, strategic is what it's all about. I'm a strategic thinker. I'm a strategic trader. That's my secret. Strategically, Donald Trump is placing America in a very bad position. He is moving against our best interests. He is pandering to a small group that can possibly swing these midterm elections for him. And he's also trying to keep happy his perceived threats, should we say, internationally. So as you analyze this, you go, oh, my God, what's the outcome? Well, looking forward, the outcome is that the American businesses will be devastated by a trade war. Manufacturing jobs do not move GDP in the U.S. economy. Okay, it's just not a mover. It doesn't. There's not that kind of value-added profitability that makes it work. Okay, when you're looking at steel, when you're looking at cars, these are very marginal businesses. I mean, from a P&L standpoint. Okay, look at the balance sheets of the companies, and it's like they're really going down a slow death. Now you add to this what I call the convergent factor, and let me explain what that is. You have so much you can do in an economy. You've got so much wiggle room and maneuvering room. And the question is, when you put in policies, I mean any policy, who are you benefiting and what is the net benefit to the economy? And that converges on, obviously, what the negative benefit is. Donald Trump has particularly picked some very low-margin businesses that have a very, very limited impact on the economy. On the other side, the Chinese very cleverly saying, we want out of this steel shit. We want out of coal. They're wrecking our cities. We don't want to generate with coal. And we perceive that the future of business and trade is going to be in high-end electronics. Okay, we're looking at this whole world that is going digital, and we're looking at digital devices, and they are putting a huge amount of money in training their population. They're putting a huge amount of money in research and development, huge amount. For every dollar we put in, they're putting in 5. They're now catching up with America on the number of patents issued, and they are training their population to take these jobs, okay? Chinese students, when they come into America to study, they pay full tuition. They're completely subsidized by the Chinese government. And when they go home, they have no debt. Okay, nothing. And the jobs are readily available for them, and they receive extreme status in their society. For every one American engineer that graduates, there's 10 Chinese. So Donald Trump wants to graduate coal miners and steel workers and assembly workers in our factories. China, on the other hand, wants to do data engineers. They want to move into the highest tech, highest level manufacturing. They want to move into 5G, which is brilliant. See, 5G is so big. That's the next move on cell phones and digital data. That means that data will now be delivered at better than fiber speeds, cheaper by airwaves. Okay, it's a lot cheaper to broadcast a signal through the air than it is to run a little fiber cable into your house. And the other perception is that we're moving away from stationary devices. That a lot of what's going to go on is going to be in mobile devices and not in the desktop market, not in the desktop realm. So China is really making some brilliant decisions. And let me tell you what they're doing. They're going, oh, Donald Trump, he gives them a 5-year lead. For however long he's in office, Donald Trump is obviously an enemy. He's stopped some very important mergers. He has not supported Silicon Valley on an international basis. He is, if you notice, he's not giving any real discussion to the trade problems that they have. What about cars going to Europe? And, of course, steel, coal, aluminum. What are you doing, guy? So we basically have the Donald Trump disaster. We basically have a situation where Donald has got to get elected with Republicans surrounding him. That stops his midterm crisis, and then he moves from that base, if it's successful, to the next term elections. So my warning is that this is not going to work that way. Let me very quickly give you how it's going to. We're going to end up with a huge recession. We're going to end up with both psychologically and actual damage as sanctions hit the United States hard, targeted industries. And when they start seeing these tit-for-tat trade war, because right now they regard it as a skirmish. Listen to me carefully. Wall Street's sleeping on this thing. They do not realize how big of a potential flub is coming with trade wars with the rest of the world. They don't realize how devastating sanctions will be, and they have not factored into their pricing of companies or the market. And this is going to be ugly because you have another thing, and that's the recession coming. So we're going to have the sugar high of 4% GDP growth, which are numbers not to be trusted. I'll show you that when we start taking them apart. But at the headline, remember, Donald Trump just needs just a couple good reports, okay? He's going to have the second and third quarter that he's going to run on for the midterm elections. And the Republican candidates are going to run on that. So those have to be good numbers. Now, they'll sort it out in the fourth quarter, and then in the first and second quarter next year, be ready for the sugar high to reverse. Be ready for, in 2019, an obvious recession. Now, remember, you trade recessions a year or two out. So we're going to, remember, it's when the start of the recession till you hit the depth of the recession is a 3-year cycle. So we are in the early stage of getting to the start of the recession. Remember, recessions we're in about a year before the markets perceive them, okay? So that means we want to position now. So starting 6 months out from now, oh my God, through the election noise, that's when a lot of the trade tensions hit. GDP peaks and goes down from the sugar high. If Donald Trump loses, oh my God, and listen to me, Donald Trump losing the midterm elections accelerates the depth of the coming recession and brings it 6 months earlier. So understand that is why that is a very, very big key to us understanding how we want to trade. Donald Trump's actions today with the G7, I can describe in 2 words: shocking and appalling.